Greetings, welcome to the next episode of the Vernon Richards Show.
Whoop, whoop.
In this episode, I don't even know what the hell we were talking about. We were talking about jobs and the job market and skills and how you communicate those things and what are the implications of that? How can we do that well? What are some things that we should avoid? You know, Rich has some stories about some situations that he's found himself in recently and some things that people have been sharing with him and how he was processing that. And I have my, usual reaction when I hear people talking about how do they communicate their value. So that's my favorite topic
Yeah,
at the moment right now. Did I
I
miss
think it
anything,
was about.
Rich?
I feel like it was probably. We think we were going to talk about like jobs and applying CVs, but I think it was a bit more about positioning. I feel it was more about where to position yourself at the moment and how to strategically like utilize that to move forward in this weird, unpredictable space that we're in. So yeah, enjoy and let us know your thoughts. Always comments, subscribe, and yeah, enjoy the episode.
All that good stuff.
Okie dokie. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Vernon Richard Show. How are you, Vern? How you
Hello.
doing? I'm loving this T-shirt, mate. I'm loving it.
Doesn't Rich sound tired right now? There you go. That's why.
Good
T-shirt from
veg.
the good folks at Offers In. I don't even know if they still exist. I hope they do because they sponsored the wonderful Let's Test South Africa for a year or two in a row, and I don't know if it was all 1 year, but I did a couple of talks there. Lucky enough to go and talk at that event. It's one of my favorite events that I've ever been to ever. And Officen have these T-shirts that they give to speakers for events that they're involved with. So I've got two. This is my favorite one for obvious reasons. But yeah, how are you? You sound a bit.
You need a
tired.
real dog. It does
No,
look a bit like Ralph. A little bit like Ralph. That.
Still look a
How am
little bit like
I?
Ralph.
Yeah. How am I? I am really tired. I've spent the weekend laying porcelain tiles because I'm too cheap to pay people to do my projects for me. Because no, I'm finishing the garden project, so it came down to the paving bit. I don't know if anyone listening's ever done paving. It's messy. It's bloody hard work. You're mixing mortar, lifting mortar. My tiles are huge porcelain tiles, so they're dead heavy to lift. Cutting them is tedious. It's just been a mission. It's been an absolute mission.
Apart from that, loads of fun.
But yeah, it's looking good. It's looking nice. I'll share a pic at some point when it's finished. But yeah, it's looking good. Apart from that, yeah, plodding on.
I was in Brussels at the weekend. There's a friend of the podcast, Baron Vandala, was getting married, and not only did he ask me to go to the wedding, he asked me to be one of the officiants. So I was
Fantastic.
officiating the wedding with his wife's best friend. So we officiated their wedding. It was absolutely amazing. There are a few wonderful people from the community there, which was lovely because I didn't know they were going to be there. So I got to see Cassandra, Leung, Odd Kramer was there, Viola. I can't remember Viola's last name, but Viola was there. Zega was there. I have not seen Zega for too long, and it was wonderful seeing him and family and friends, and that was very cool. So I felt very blessed to go over and be part of that. We got back late on Sunday, so I too was knackered yesterday, but for completely different reasons. I think I've recovered a bit now, though. So yeah, congratulations to you, Baron.
Yeah.
And thanks for inviting me over. It was a wonderful day. Your families are just beautiful humans, so it's nice to meet them as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, I didn't know that. Congratulations indeed. Sounds great.
Yeah,
Sounds a great way to spend the weekend. Better than paving, anyway.
Belgium is sick. I need to go back to Belgium because it was very cool. I want to go back to Brussels. Even as a non-beer drinker, Brussels is cool.
You get on the chocolate. Do they have any vegan chocolate? You should.
I I might become vegetarian for the next trip because you know the level of chocolate is high. Although
Worst
with my
vegan
type
ever.
2 diabetes, I can't really get involved with the chocolate either, so it's a bit of a nightmare for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true,
Anyway,
true, true. Right, we've got 2 topics. One
yes.
is something around maintaining agents. Number 2
Mhm.
is kind of the job market and kind of what we're feeling might be the right thing for people to do at the moment. Or not the right thing, kind of what we're doing, what was sense we're feeling in the industry. But yeah, like what you know, but yeah, like what feels like a good bet at the moment? You know, where's it worth spending your time? Like, kind of. You remember you always spoke about. He was the guy on LinkedIn. Is it John Cutler? Was like he likes the
Yeah.
terminology like with software, right? When you're building things, every feature you build's kind of a bet. And it's the same here now. We
Mm.
don't really know where the market's going, but we've got a sense, and we're both involved in hiring, redundancies, like, keeping an eye on the job market community. So maybe we might have a finger on the pulse, or at least, might be useful for other people.
Dunno. I think it's a really complicated question because there's an ethical component to the choice, the decision-making process, I think, that needs to be, factored in as well. Um, and so telling people what the right thing is to do is dangerous
Yeah.
territory. So I'm kind of we're like,
Agreed,
maybe
agreed.
just not the right decision.
Uh,
Let's
yeah,
say
so
something else.
let's rephrase, like, not the right, not the thing you should go and do, maybe something you can consider, see if it fits what you're doing, maybe share what
Yeah.
we're doing. Um, because yeah, the we've said it on all our recent episodes, like things are changing. Good, whether
Mhm.
it's good, bad, doesn't matter, right? It is changing. And with that, I think you kind of have not a responsibility, right? But I turned 40 a couple of months ago, right? And according to our delightful government, I've still got 27 years to work. Like, which what am I going to do with those 27 years? What skills do I need? Like, what, like that? That's mad. I've got more work to do than I've already done. Well, it's,
Mhm.
obviously I could, save money and retire early, right? But like the pension age in the UK is 67 and probably most likely going to be 71, they reckon, by the time
Oh,
that
yeah. But
I'll
yeah,
get there anyway.
well, easy peasy, yeah,
Only a few years for you, isn't it, Vern? My pension age.
piss off. Just,
Whoa!
just haven't spoke to him for weeks. Straight in there, dagger in the back from Bradshaw. Friendly,
But
my ass back in.
but
Ugh.
on the topic of yeah, kind of. So I had an interesting conversation today. I don't mind sharing. So I was speaking to a former colleague about the contracting market, and
Okay.
he he's had a couple of contracts recently. But interestingly, the certification's incredibly popular again. So he's
Mm.
being pushed to have Anthropic and Google like official certs. These things only cost like, say only, right? It's money. But they do cost like 100, 200 pounds, right? So yeah, obviously it's not free, but it's also not a twelve
Zero.
hundred
Yeah.
pound crappy ISEB course, right? it's
Uh-huh.
and I think you just pay to do the actual exam. Um, but yeah, he's being asked to have all this apparently to kind of prove that he has awareness of AI because like what he said to me was like they they're assuming that everyone uses it now, but being able to prove that you know how to use it is to get through the door, right? Because apparently a lot of what he was saying, a lot of people are, saying they do all these things and use all these things, but obviously now on paper, that doesn't. If you get 200 of them, you need to break it down somehow, right? So anyway, yeah, he's saying certs are coming back a lot. So I've not had a look myself, but I was tempted to go and have a quick look at some of these certs. So that's kind of the something I heard today. Um,
Interesting.
then the only other thing is that what we just said there. So this whole using AI, I'm like, but like, what does it mean, right? Like, we all use AI, but like to keep yourself current in the job market, how are we feeling about how much AI do you actually have to be doing or using?
Yeah. I think the certs uh that certification story is interesting. It's the same problem, just remixed for AI. Like it's literally the same. Whenever there's a new technology, whenever there's a new paradigm, whenever there's a new something, the question becomes, how do you prove or demonstrate that you have skill and competency in the thing? Like, what evidence can you show? So
Yeah,
if you can get yourself certified in some way, that becomes a shorthand for, oh, this person knows. So it's the same reason why in the UK we have GCSEs, we have A levels, right? People use those as a shorthand for, you are knowledgeable or have a level of expertise because you've got this first from this particular organization, first class honors degree. So that means you know something. You've got 5 years working at Google. Okay, I don't need to ask any more questions. You know what you're doing about whatever it is. It's like it's just the same. So certifications are just such a fixture in tech.
yeah.
Um,
Bonus question for you though: do you
it's
still
just
have your GCSEs on your CV?
no.
I still see CVs. I still see CVs with their GCSEs on them. It's like,
it's
like,
it's because people are
sorry,
thinking, what evidence do I need to provide? And I know
yeah,
of
yeah.
one person at Armstrong who went for a job in the not too distant past and was asked what his GCSE grades were and his A levels were.
Wow. So just
And
to
I
be
just
clear, I
thought that
wasn't mocking people. If you're new to your career, then obviously, that's perfectly fine. But I'm like getting
was
20
yeah,
years in the industry still with their GCSEs on their CV, which again, not saying it's bad. It just surprises me. It's like that all this other stuff should be sold so much more than
it's
the last bit.
it's not bad. It should it, for me, it's a sign of you've got limited real estate
Yeah.
to communicate all of your awesomeness. Are
Well,
the qualifications that you got as a teenager the most, like, are they worthy of the space on the CV? I am going to, for me personally, that is a no. Not just because
yeah.
the grades were pretty average, but because it was a long time ago.
Is it called GCSEs then?
Fucking hell. Is anybody on the subject of jobs? I'm hiring for a co-host um, of the podcast. So if you can just hit me up on LinkedIn, that'd be great.
um,
Uh,
but one thing about the certificates though is, from what I did look up a couple of months ago because my employer was offering free, because we're partners with a lot of these tools. We had some free exam credits and stuff, and I do think what we were saying before, they do get you hands on, right? So I think a lot of people are using AI, but are they using it in the context of their discipline or their craft, right? Obviously, outside of work, people are using it for all sorts, but in work, how much experience are you getting either building it or using it? And I think that's also a really important distinction to think about. There's a lot of companies that don't want to build anything with AI in, or don't need to, but want to change the way they're building that product by utilizing AI. And then you've got companies and projects where you're building something that has AI in it. And then you've
mm,
got projects where you're doing both. Like,
mhm,
so I think that's also worth distinguishing with the way you think about that. And I think that certificate side of it is probably a bit like, you know, I've already done it on once on this episode, right? I like to give ISTQB a hard time, right? Because I just do. um, but they they brought a common they brought one of the things we take away from it, or that I still like say it's worthwhile for, is the understanding of words. Might not be the right definitions, right? But they give you an introduction to most of the common words that you would need to know in that space. And then when I think about AI, how many of us are in that position to talk about the common terminology that comes out of the AI space? So I think certs are a good place to start from that side of things. But yeah, after that, I think there's three flavors that people need to think about.
Yeah, we talked about that in the last episode. You're either building AI or building with AI, or
Yeah.
both. And I don't know, man. It depends when it comes to evidence. As I've mentioned a few times, I'm going down this entrepreneurial journey. I want to build up um like a consultancy that I can deliver on the side at first, and God willing, if everything falls into place, maybe it could become my full-time means of making buku money, right?
Yeah.
But in order to do that, again, you have to demonstrate your credibility. You have to demonstrate why should somebody engage with you? Like, how can you help them? Why should they trust you? We're in a trust recession, I've heard people say, and I can see why. And that's because there are so many people who want to be doing solopreneurship, entrepreneurship, um, content creators. The content creator economy is now absolutely a thing for sure in 2026. Like, that is definitely it. And so over the years, as people try to make money online, that has brought about, more charlatans, more scammy things, more people who are just able to just bloviate and waffle and not be actually any good at doing the thing, but they are good at selling and pretending they can do the thing.
Yeah.
Um, but all that being said, I think if you think about it in terms of that entrepreneurial angle, and how can I demonstrate my credibility to either my existing teammates or potential new teammates? Even this podcast, even though we do not push this podcast, right? Like, it's not like we are clearly not trying to get 1 million subscribers on this YouTube channel, right? But on the whiteboard testing YouTube channel, you might.
Mhm.
And when people might see, oh, well, see us post. I might say, oh, that's a pretty interesting. What else has this person said? And go on, search for Richard online and search for Vern online. And they'll find this YouTube channel. And it's more evidence that, oh, these people enjoy this topic so much that they meet up and talk about it in their spare time and go through the whole rigmarole of turn it into an episode and publishing it, and on some very lazy level,
Yeah.
trying to let people know that it's there. Oh, that's pretty interesting. And it turns out that they're not actually talking nonsense because they have a level of experience in the
Yeah.
thing, which is evidenced by all this material that they output, that they share, that they publish. They travel and do talks and do training and all this kind of thing. And I think it's a similar kind of, I think there's a lesson there that we can take back into our day jobs. Particularly in this era of hiring and firing and all the rest of it. It's not a silver bullet, but it might help if you are able to communicate your value to the people who are deciding, or the people who so you can either make yourself visible to the people who decide, or you can make yourself visible to the people who are consulted by the people who decide. Right. If you make yourself valuable to your peers and your teammates and people up and down the food chain and all the rest of it, then when these decisions are being made, it's like, oh, we should keep you, or we should keep Vernon, or we should keep Rich because here's the impact that they've had. They helped with this thing and that thing and the other thing. Sorry, that was a long one.
But I think that's really important, right? Because we were just chatting off air, right? Nothing's new, but everything's new, right? So the use of these talks, right? We've been to them. There's you've done it yourself. You've spoke about the art of selling testing, right? So we used to talk about selling your testing story to show that impact. I think at the moment, yes, that's valuable, but there is a absolute desperate need to show that you are using AI. Whereas
Yeah,
I think originally, right? I'm just reflecting. Ooh, not my speaker down. I'm the microphone. I'm just reflecting on the fly, right? But I feel initially, like a year ago, or maybe a bit longer, when this wave kind of really took off, it was almost frowned upon or looked down that you used AI, and almost you didn't want to tell people that you'd used AI. Like you kind of wanted to, make it look like it's all Richard. um, and it is all Richard. I just happened to use the tool to help me do
mm,
it. Whereas now it's the opposite. People want to hear that you used the tool. How did you use the tool? Why did you use that tool?
I think
How did it change?
that's interesting. That's interesting. I do know what you mean. I do know what you mean, but I feel like well, maybe it depends on in which aspect of life it's being used in. So so I saw a really interesting post from, oh my God, I am going to butcher your name, bro. I'm going to apologize in advance. It's the author of the Pragmatic Engineer newsletter and blog and, like podcast. It's Shirley Orsley, I think. So forgive me, I will go and find the correct pronunciation and put that in the show notes. But he put out a post where he basically said something along the lines, and find this post, put it in the show notes. He was saying, look, we got to stop using AI for absolutely everything. And he shared this story about how he went for like a coffee date or a coffee meet with somebody that he was connected to, and they ended up in the same space, went for coffee. He said it was wicked. Connected. I thought, this is somebody that I want to keep working with, and maybe there's some opportunities for us to do some cool stuff in the future. But this person is cool. And then after the meet, this person sent him a message that was clearly written by AI. It was just blatantly obvious. And so the way he interpreted that was just, you cannot be asked to even write me a note.
Mm,
And you've just put in this freaking trash prompt that you've probably sent to everyone else that you've flipping met up in the last month. You've not personalized. It's not from you. It's some shitty, generic prose from ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. And that's just really pissed me off. Like, I don't even want to work with you. I said, and he was saying, whenever I get these kind of DMs, whoever sends them, I instantly block. I don't know what made him decide to he must have just had time today. He was like, God damn it, I've had enough of this shit. I don't know. But he posted about
yeah.
it and he said, read out the names and stuff, but he shared the fact that on this occasion, he'd replied to the guy and said, look, you've just fucking blown it now. I don't really want to work with you, because why did you do that? Please stop doing that, because you're burning opportunities. And I think there's pushback on that. I think there's pushback on that kind of thing where, people are using AI to post on LinkedIn. People are using AI to write newsletters. I didn't even know I had an opinion about this until somebody replied, it's going back towards the beginning of the year. I posted something and somebody replied. No, two different people replied, and it was blatantly obvious that they'd used Gen AI, and I had
Yeah.
an allergic reaction to that I didn't know that I was going to have.
Well, I get
I
the
was,
same. Yeah.
I didn't even want to reply. I was like, ugh, ugh. It's like, ugh.
You can tell though. I think that's the thing. Like, you're a much bigger writer than I am, but like you can just tell. Like There's people on LinkedIn who I have a lot of, again, like, I'm gonna be a bit like what you just said, like, let me say, historical respect for. But in recent months, every post that I read of theirs reads like it's written by AI. Like, there's just something that I know this person. I know I've had dinner and chatted to them and had extensive conversations. They don't talk like this. Like, this is not how they
Right,
speak, right? And I
right,
get people can write
right.
differently, but you don't do that for the type of posts that I'm reading. These posts are usually on the fly, something's just happened, quick 5-10 minute ramble, post it, organic, proper, traditional, content. And now everything's like polished and like nicely formatted and like has like a beginning,
Hot.
middle, and an end. It's like, it's just,
Yeah.
I find it bizarre. But also I get the DMs as well in the same vein. Like, you can tell that they've been sent to one to many people.
Uh-oh. Am I still there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you've disappeared. Like your camera's gone all
Well,
blurry and
hopefully it will recover on the upload. But yeah, I was just you made me think of the hype cycle, and I wonder
yeah.
if, because we got on this particular tangent because you were talking about how whenever this AI wave started, when did you say it started? 23, 24, somewhere in there?
Yeah, I
22?
don't know. It's like feels like that when it proper took
And
off. Yeah,
we were all trying to pretend like we weren't using it, and some people weren't using it, and some people absolutely were using it. And now the expectations have changed, and now the expectation is you should be bloody well using it.
yeah.
Um, and I do think what you're saying is true, but I do think it's more specific. So, as an engineer, the expectation is that you should be using it. As a ba-
Using it for what?
perhaps that's what I was that you just took the words out of my mouth. It's like, but not necessarily for absolutely everything. Like
Yeah.
literally for everything. Maybe not so much. And I'm wondering if that's because we're getting over the hype cycle, if you like. There's the peak hype cycle where there's all these promises it's going to change the what everyone's going to get fired. It'll be able to do your job 100% as well as you, etc., etc., etc. And you know, people want to say, okay, well, if that's the claim, where is the results? Like, where's the evidence? I've started using this thing. Why is my team still fucked? Why is my team still burning out? Why am I still getting errors in production and bugs and customers complaining at me if this was all going to solve absolutely everything? Like, what's going on? Um,
Yeah.
now people are being a little bit more, oh, okay, I'm in the trough of disillusionment, or I can see it approaching. Now what do I do? I think we're getting into that territory now, it feels like.
Well, I think it's a good opportunity to go back full circle to what you said, right? So we've got to be using it and we've got to be doing it with intent and we've got to be doing it to show value um
Mm,
to others, right? Because that has become the expectation that we people are using AI. Um
mm,
that's how it feels to me anyway. It might not be the same for everybody, but like job specs seem to show a lot more of that. I work in
yeah.
consultancy. A lot of the work that is coming or being bid on is very heavy AI.
Mhm,
Um, so yeah, I think you need to be using it, but that storytelling aspect, which is not a new skill for people in testing,
yeah.
you've got to start doing that. It can't just be that I use it. It's like, well, what do you use it for? How do you use it? What value did it bring you? And even more so, like I think we used to talk about. I'm sure we've done a talk or podcast together about when to stop testing, right? So like you've just said, why did you not use AI in this instance? Because the default is almost becoming that you should,
Oh,
right? So why did you choose not to
oh,
use AI and I don't know, make the change
my Wi-Fi
manually or
died.
write that test? So even again, using the
Hello,
word
hello.
manually, there's so many
Oh,
connotations with this AI wave and testing. Hey, he's back. Hello again.
Hello.
Um, there's so many common commonalities that I just find it crazy, and I feel like it's the same with testing now, right? So, um, and like back to the job market and CVs. So, um, I'm not going to name them, right? But someone posted their CV and asked for feedback, and I gave them feedback. And I think we've spoken about this in a previous episode. And they wrote things around testing that they'd done, and my response was, "So what?" So now, if you see a CV and it says I use Copilot, and now Vernon's left the chat, yeah, you get to see me full screen. Hello, it's just Richard's show now. Oh no, it's the Vernon and Richard show again. He's back.
I don't know what's going on here, man. Bloody hell. Okay. Sorry, where were you? Carry on.
um, I was
You're
just
saying going
saying that
back to
I
the job
think it,
market.
yeah, and I was just explaining that reviewing people's CV recently, I kind of it came across like my feedback was quite harsh, but this person later on then said actually it helped them. And the thing that I did is the critical thinking, right? The huh, really so. So I was reading everything on the CV and all I kept saying was, so what? So what? I
Mm-hmm.
use Copilot, I use Claude. So what? So do I. Like, you've got to push forward now and be like, I use it to do this, and actually convince yourself that it's a good thing that you're doing it. As or not a good thing, but identify where it is adding value and where it's hindering you. Which steps of it should you just stop trying to give to AI? And this is why I find it. I keep saying it. I've said it probably so many times on this pod. The overlap to automated testing or test automation is so strong for me when it comes to AI and agents, because it is just automating your job, automating your workflow. That's all we were doing in AI. Like if you look in the development space, there was very few tools that automated the job of a developer, right? You had IntelliSense and you had a few scaffolding things, right? But there was nothing proper major. Whereas test automation, we've been trying to mimic a human for years, like decades.
Mm.
And now that's what's happening to everyone else. Like, and
I think
I'm not saying it positions me better, but it feels so relatable to me.
I think I think that the way I would describe it is, and this is what my agile testing days talk is going to be about. I think because the way that testing work is described and measured lends itself. There's three flavors of work, or at least three that I've come across. There's manual labor, there's skilled labor, and there's knowledge work. And so people in our part of the um, software development world would say that software testing is knowledge work. As we discussed in the previous pod, there are some people who disagree vehemently with that. I think they're wrong. I haven't heard any sensible arguments that convince me otherwise. But where we are shooting ourselves in the foot for as long as I've been in this line of work is that we describe our work too often in terms of manual labor,
Yeah,
which is I did this many things. Do you know what I mean? I tested this
yeah.
many things. I found this many things,
I laid
which
20
is
paving stones yesterday.
exactly. So if that kind of lends itself to being automated away.
Yeah,
If you frame AI research as um, looking at ways to automate, away humanity or something, then you could say that they've been trying to automate developers' jobs for decades as well. The only thing is that development in terms of writing code has better PR than doing testing, and so
yeah,
it's a different problem space as well. I would say, at least from a market, the way it's been marketed, the way it's positioned in people's thoughts and cognitive awareness. And I think that's the thing I think that's why what you said rings true, is because that argument has been laid at testing's feet for as long as you and I have been mates and been in this industry, which is a long bloody time, ladies and gentlemen. And, you know, and now everyone is being subject to that because of the nature of this Gen AI stuff. It can, on some level, in some way, shape, or form, do everyone's job. I'm doing air quotes, people can't see. So now everyone's wrestling with that question of what even is my job?
Yeah.
You know, where is the
But
value? And this is what we talked about in the last pod. Like, you know, where is the value in what I do as an individual? If I wasn't there, what would happen in my team? Would anyone notice? Would anyone give a shit? Would anyone be bothered?
even outside of the people, would the product be any different? Would it be better? Would it be worse?
Yeah,
I think you have both sides of that.
yeah.
But I think again that's why I feel the connection with automated testing so strongly when it comes to this use of AI, because I've done days and days of like workshops about when to automate, when not to automate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the steps that go into designing a test versus like me and you, like we could open up an IDE now and have the same spec and say build this, right?
Mm.
We will both build it, but
Mm-hmm.
which one of them will be, you know, better? And then you can argue that, well, you know, there should have been clearer requirements, like better should have been defined and all this other stuff. It's never been defined.
No.
It's been inferred by people that have been around other people and had those conversations or used the
Mm-hmm.
product and all these other things. And that yeah, I'm going on a tangent anyway, but like that's the bit that I think is different. And that's the bit you need to be talking about now going forward, is practicing that value, that impact that you have because you have the skills you have, but also because you're skillful in utilizing tools at your disposal, especially at the moment, anything that is to do with LLMs and AI. And I think you have to.
Yeah, there's yeah. It's the well, it is the same, but like I was saying at the start, it's not just the same, or there's not just a commonality with the challenges that we've had with test automation as a thing. I think it's this. You know, think about when cloud became a thing. So how
Yeah.
do you prove? Like, how do you prove that you are, you know, air quotes, good at cloud? Like, you can reason about it, and you know when to use it, and you know why it's the right choice. You know when it's the wrong choice, and when not to use it. And implementing it is not just as simple as just, you know, spinning up a bloody, would it be some GCP instance and say, "Oh, I'm in the cloud now, everything's awesome." Like what? Like, there's good and bad ways of doing that thing, and it's the same. You have to be. I say you have to be. The people who will go furthest with this technology are the people who are able to say, "Here's when to use it. I understand the characteristics of this thing, and therefore I know when to use it and when not to use it, and I can articulate that." Because it's tied back to risk and problem solving, which ties back to the entrepreneurial and sales stuff that I'm always going on about. If you send Rich a CV that just says, "I used it and I used it to create 1,000 tests, or I used it to create 1,000 lines of code, or I shipped 20 tickets," Rich and I and everybody else who's seen this kind of thing before will say, "Well, so what? Which 20? Why didn't you do 21? Why didn't
Yeah.
you do 19? Why didn't you do 10? When you shipped them, what happened? Like, who cared? What changed for those people?" Like, if you can start to tell those kind of stories and talk about it in that kind of way, regardless of what the technology is or the paradigm or the new way of working. It was the same when Agile became a thing, Scrum. Have you really got Scrum experience? Like, okay, we can figure that out as well. Um,
Uh, That's a good
Yeah.
one. Lots of certificates in that space as well.
Tons.
Yeah.
Tons.
I think
That's the problem with certification. It's rent seeking. So it's a bit, it's like, it's theoretically, yes, like you said, there's a problem that it does solve, but there's something inherently about it.
yeah. But like back to the job market and the CV like as well, because day actual specifically on your CV, I think one of the things that I feel that has always been missed, but probably is more relevant now is, for example, a lot of people are going to write on their CV now, I don't know, use Copilot, use Claude Code,
Yeah.
right? Whatever. But I would rather see a bullet point about something like, I don't know, one or 2 hour battle with Claude Code to implement a feature. Like that's a terrible example, right? But like something like that, or reduced my Claude throughput by automating 12 skills or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something that shows that you've actually used it and it's clear you've been on the journey, as opposed to I use Claude Code. Or,
Mm-hmm.
again, I used that Playwright's MCP. So what? What did you use it for? Did you use it to speed up writing tests, debugging tests? What like you said before, what was the impact? Because everyone else is claiming or is playing with Playwright CLI or MCP or Claude Code or whatever tool it is, right? Everyone's claiming they're doing it, but that little nuance of a nugget of an experience or a story. It's like, let's say you're building a product with AI in it and you spent 4 hours on a wild debug chase and you ended
Mm-hmm.
up finding the bug and you fixed it. What was the impact of that? You know, reduce the agent's processing time by 2 minutes after investigating this issue. I like that. If I read that on a CV, I'm like, oh, how'd you do that? I'm curious. Like that's enough now for me to want to interview you and be like, how did you do that? What were the steps? Like, how did you know to look? Like all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff, and then you can immediately then tell whether it's made up or not, right? But most of the time it won't be. And then it's like an actual real experience of what you've done. It doesn't always have to be the shiny bells and whistles. It doesn't have to be always like impact to the product, yes, impact to your team, yes. What about impact to you? Like how you've changed and developed.
Mm-hmm.
Because those stories have a lot of weight, especially now that everyone is using it. But if you can show you're using it critically and you're aware of it and you're not just blindly delegating it to AI, you're doing it meaningfully and like with a clear plan. That to me, as someone who would be hiring, feels far more, you know, like I don't know what the right word is, but like I want that
Appealing.
person. Yeah, appealing.
Yeah.
Like I want that person, and I think that's it. Right now, everyone's playing with it. You've definitely got to be playing with it. I think we've said that for months now, and like I think the industry's telling you that you've got to do it. But now you've got to not forget the lessons from the past and put that impact on your CV and front and center of what you're doing because everyone's using it, and you've got to stand out. Um, not stand out, maybe not true, but you've got to do that reflection to be able to talk coherently about it and show that you do get the technology. Same with automation. People who were just blindly saying we should automate stuff didn't understand it. They didn't know the process, didn't know how it worked, didn't know its value. And I feel like you got to now. That's Richard's rant over.
Um, I was just scrambling to see if I could find a a post that someone from my day job shared it with me. Might have been the CEO actually. Talking about levels of AI proficiency.
Mm-hmm. Oh, maturity models.
Um, kind of. Well, what I'm looking forward to having these conversations at work this week, at the end of this week with my line manager, because we've got this we've got these different levels of AI competency or proficiency, or however you want to
Hmm.
describe it. And the bottom level might be something like you've used it once. You've used the chat, you know, at least once. And then maybe level one is you
How many
use
R's are in strawberry? Hey, level
right,
one.
exactly, exactly. And level one might be you use chat very like it's part of your everyday. You use it all the time. That said, it is the chat part. And then level two is that you have built a skill or an agent or a tool um, that is not just amplifying your own workflow, but is amplifying other people's workflows, right? There's all these different things you can find online to describe these different these different levels. And I think if you think about it, and I think that again, I think that applies to any tool or skill. If you can break it down into something that on some level feels a little bit more tangible, a little bit easier to understand. I mean, a level that a leveling system that I use that I pinched from Dan North, and I'll definitely share. I must have shared this link to this talk before because it's wicked, but it's definitely like everything else in the Gen AI era. We're remembering all this shit that we should have been doing in the first place. But anyway, there are these different.
Absolutely.
He describes a situation where rather than having fixed teams, you have teams that break apart and reform and break apart and reform based on the skills of the individuals
Yep.
and the needs of a particular project. And it always reminded me of how film crews work. They break apart and they come together, and they break apart and they come
Yep.
together. And the way you describe your proficiency in a particular skill is something along the lines of, I mean, I've heard of it, but that's it. That's the base level. The next level is I can do the thing, but I would need help.
Hmm.
So I've done it before, but I haven't done that often. I can do it again, but I would need some help. The next one is I can I can just do. You can just say, go and do this thing with this tool, and it's like, cool. I'll just go do it. I don't need any help. I am the expert. And then the top level is I can teach you how to do this.
Yeah.
And I really love that. I just love that description. And I wonder if that's a way to also consider describing, not just for AI, for anything. It's like, where are you? Can you do this thing unassisted? Do you need assistance? Have you never even heard of this thing? Or can you teach? Have you taught or could you teach other people how to do this thing? And then I think that becomes very tangible in people's minds. You still need the evidence, like Rich was saying. Like, don't get it
Yep.
twisted. You still need to demonstrate that you can teach or have taught people how to do the thing. But it could be a cool way to kind of think about it. I'll definitely find this
Yeah.
talk because it's just too sick.
Well, I think that, again, I think that's where, like, again, like, it feels full circle, right? Because I think between us, we've had the same thing over the years. Like, it's true though, but I think now the scale, like, that used to be done on a testing community specialism scale, and I think at the moment everyone's now using these tools. There's lots of common lessons that people are doing. People have their own nuances around their use. We were chatting before we pressed record about the way I write prompts and have a couple of
Mm,
agents that help me. It's very different to how the AI specialists I work with. They're a lot more thorough. They're a lot more clearer. It's like I use it like I'm talking to developer next to me, right?
mm,
like that's just because that's the way I communicate. Um, and obviously I've had to like write some skills to help with some of that aspect. But like I mentioned before, I go through a planning stage because I've been bitten by not doing the planning stage, and like one
mm,
job, it becomes it takes longer because I end up having to keep reminding it of things it didn't do. So now we make the plan. The plan gets saved in a markdown file. We iterate through the plan. until we've finished whatever the plan was, right? But firstly, I'm iterating maybe 10, 12 times on the plan. And
Mm,
this is another thing about that we were chatting offline about the way people are using AI. I'm
mhm,
using, as far as I view it, it's my mission to implement that feature, right? It's my mission. I might use AI for 99% of it potentially, right? But it's my mission. I care about it. It's my name going on that PR. It's my name on the ticket. So
mm,
I'm like, I'm going to utilize AI. Of course I am, but it's me on it. And then also because of the speaking about the career wise, I noticed quite early on with the way I was using AI, it was like, I can learn from this. Like it is doing stuff that it's got from somewhere, right? Someone has written these words or guided it or written something that's made this model think this is the right order of letters. And I can look at that and go, what the hell is that? And I think we spoke about this on
mhm,
a previous pod. I often would go, I know I'm not a complete, I've written a lot of code. So I'm like, why have you done it that way and not that way? Why have you used pattern A instead of pattern B? And then it will teach me. And then I'd be like, oh, and then, but then because I'm not, again, because I've got that critical mindset, I'm not going to go, okay, I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to Google those things and be like, read an actual blog by a real human. Oh, that's hard. That's getting harder to tell anyway, but like try and read something that is a bit more accurate. Um, but yeah, anyway, I completely lost where I was going with that, but it, like, I think the way you're using it needs to be shared because other people are going to learn from that, especially now as well in companies where you've got people who aren't as technical as you who are now being pushed to use AI. And then when I say technical, they're not software people. They don't understand parts of it and they're being pushed to use, talk about terminology. They don't understand they don't know the terminology of software development life cycles or just software or testing or development. And suddenly they're having all these tools thrown at them and being told to use them, and they've got no idea what that tool's meant to do. They're told to use it, but it's not the same for me as when you're told to use a tool that's deterministic. Now you're told to use a tool that has random, probabilistic output, and you need you need a lot more help to utilize that tool. Now, if you write an agent for someone, yes, it should take care of itself in some cases. Maybe it's agent to agent. But if it's a person that's meant to know when to use that agent, they need to know about the domain. You can't just give them the agent. And that in itself is a real skill set. That's teaching, that's codifying knowledge, that's documentation writing, that's technical writing. That where's all the talk about that side of it at the moment? It's not. It's all on the actual using of AI. And then for a future episode, just to set us up, like who's talking about maintaining these agents? Who's testing them? Who's detecting drift? What happens, as you said to me
we
offline?
need
What
to talk.
happens when the model dies, or
We
they
need to
turn it
talk
off?
about that. We need
Because
to talk about that
there's so
in
much.
the next episode.
Because like
I want to get in.
you've gone from a 100-person company to 20 and 80 agents. Who's looking after the agents? Who is making sure those agents, like if your data models change between them, who like it's no it's not the same, right? But if you think of microservices, they're all communicating in a certain way. That's why contract testing came along, right? In
Mhm.
prompts, you can tell it to stick to certain outputs. It won't always do that. So like
It will
who's
not.
maintaining all these contracts? Because
It will
and it,
not.
like just to end on a thing that really got me recently was and again, it's why I'm so fixated on the relationship with test automation, is now the focus has become on what they're calling the harness. Do you remember when automation
Correct.
frameworks were called harnesses?
Yeah.
Like, can you remember? Yeah, well, we used to call them test harnesses. Selenium was
Yep.
originally written as a test harness, I think, or something like that.
Mhm.
Anyway, now that's the terminology because everyone went off and wrote automated tests in 5 different tools with 5 different patterns. And then the company went, we can't maintain all this. I want a single harness to rule them all. And now everyone's gone off and written agents in all different flavors and built different frameworks. And now someone's gone, we can't maintain this. We need a harness that gives us metrics and observability and tracking and auditing and schema updates and just good patterns. And it's the exact same cycle that automation went on, because it is just
I
automation. I know that. For anyone thinking, Richard, it's just automation, I know it is, right? But this specifically on the testing cycle that we went on. But anyway,
yeah,
there's
I
there's
want
a lot to
to.
talk about there.
I don't know if they're using like a genuinely. I can't remember. So there's an often cited article by OpenAI about harness engineering that came
Yeah,
out. I think it was it early this year or the end of last year? Well, what I can say is I discovered it earlier on this year. Let me put it that way. Um, I'll include the link to it in the show notes. It's a really interesting article, and it talks about how they define a harness and what it is and what it does. And I can't remember if it's exactly the same as how we use the term in testing back in the day. But I think you're right. It's just another example or instance of when something air quotes old is now coming back to the
yeah,
fore
yeah,
because of reason.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, we
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
about
it's
this
true.
like exactly what you said. Oh, we talked about harnesses back in the day. Oh, is that a thing again now? Okay, cool. You know what I mean?
And it's
Oh man,
because,
but
again, if you can define
we
that
need to do
problem,
that episode. No, go on, go on,
yeah,
go on.
well, but it's the problem's the same, right? So it's the same problem of there's lots of people doing something, they're doing it differently. We need to do it
Huh?
in the same. We need to do it in a uniform way. The implementation, the how, going to be completely different. You need different tooling than you would do for solving the same problem in test automation. But the same patterns, the same skills, the same thinking, probably some holistic models can all be reused just in this space of AI. And again, I think if you get yourself up to speed with the basics, what you mentioned about defining, being able to define, being able to do it with support, being able to do it on your own, being able to teach it, you're going to be in a very good space, especially if you maintain or not maintain, you utilize the experience that you've had over your career. It's not just thrown out the window because AI's arrived. Like it's not the case. I think I'm thriving with AI because of the experiences I've had in the past, and I make sure that I tell people that, because
That
everyone can use the tool, but I can use the tool in a certain way because I've got experience.
I've been sick for a little while. Um, so my newsletter writing has absolutely fallen off a cliff. But God willing, I'll be writing a newsletter this weekend, and it will be on that topic that you just talked about. The fundamentals, or at least some of the fundamentals as I see them, that are going to be required going forwards. I think
Perfect.
all of that stuff is becoming more valuable as you know, and as the industry hurtles along at breakneck speed, outputting stuff. There's a lot of stuff being outputted, and
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff being output, and we have some skills that will make us extremely handy to have around in a situation like this if we can articulate them properly and use them effectively and make sure that people understand the narrative and the connection between the shit that we're doing and the impact that is occurring. If we can join those two things together, we'll be laughing, but we need to make sure we have those fundamental skills.
agreed.
So that testing conversation, that AI testing, whether it's building with or building it, we need to have an episode on that at some point soon.
Yeah, yeah. The market of evaluating AI, massive topic.
Hmm.
But yeah, right, we're nearly at the hour mark. So thank you all for listening
Yes,
to our rumbles. Make sure to subscribe, do all that stuff. And I need to write some agents to do our marketing for us because I keep forgetting.
mate,
So
mate,
enjoy.
indeed. Enjoy. See you in the next episode.